Welcome back to Simon Says. I hope you all are managing lockdown, and I understand that it's been extended to May 3rd, and it's a painful ordeal. That is, I don't know for you guys, but for me, you can see the beard's grown for me, and sheesh. But anyways, we have uh, today our topic is about self-compassion, and we have someone who is majored in that in her life, not studied, but actually living it. And so I would like to ask Neha to introduce our guest for tonight. Neha,
Yes, hello. So,
hi.
hi. Our guest for today, Mrs. Michelle, happens to be my professor as well. So,
You.
Michelle ma'am is a psychotherapist who's been practicing for 9 years. Her work includes clinical work, training, teaching, coaching, a lot of things basically. She's very committed and compassionate about enhancing, developing positive thinking, behavior. She also believes in empowering her clients to transcend their problems and discover their better selves and healthy goals. So that's
Amazing.
Michelle man for you.
Michelle, say hi.
Hi, everyone.
Also, FYI, guys, Michelle is an amazing baker. Also, she cooks fantastically. Also, I think she did this small little thing with one of the master chefs of Australia. I forgot the guy's name, but
What thing did I
anyways,
do?
Gordon Ramsay.
no, one of
No,
those guys came to Bangalore. No, you did that whole
I didn't
thing
do
with them.
anything. I just went and saw them and was starstruck and I left.
Yeah. So she learned a lot either ways. Okay, so coming back to our topics, Suv, do you want to start off?
Yes, I think the topic is self-compassion. But I think many of us don't really know what the difference is between self-love and self-compassion. So if our speaker could probably tell us what it is and what it means to her, why is it important?
Okay, so to start off, self-love and self-compassion, I consider them to be quite different from each other because self-love doesn't necessarily always have to include compassion. You can love yourself, and a lot of times it could include loving your strengths, right? Loving things that you are good at. And compassion, I think, is a much more, kind of concentrated version of self-love because compassion means to be kind to yourself even through difficult times, right? Even when you're not doing great, even when you make a mistake. Self-compassion is to not be judgmental of yourself, not to be critical of yourself. A lot of times people actually confuse self-compassion with being easy on themselves and cutting themselves slack, right? Or saying, oh, that just means that I can just do whatever I want and I can just say, oh, I'm being compassionate and, and get away with it, right? But having self-compassion doesn't mean that you're being easy on yourself in the context of you can get away with anything. But it literally is about when you've given something your best, when you've done whatever you could to evaluate that and be okay with the things that didn't go very well and the things that probably did go well and recognizing certain maybe mistakes that you've made and working towards, using that learning to not kind of maybe repeat those things again or to repeat those mistakes again or to learn from that, right? So it's not about saying, oh, you know what, I did this and it's not a big deal. I do not have any kind of emotion towards maybe things that you've done. It's about recognizing the emotion that is bringing up for you, being okay with those emotions, being okay with the mistakes that you made, and still being kind to yourself, right? It's about, like, for example, a lot of times I tell my clients that the same way that you're kind towards others, right? If somebody makes a mistake, if a friend makes a mistake, you're always very kind to them and you show them compassion and say, it's okay. It's not a big deal. It's okay. It'll get better or you will feel better. And it's pretty much doing the exact same thing with yourself, which we all pretty much are not the best at because we expect the most from ourselves and we're the hardest with ourselves and the most critical towards ourselves. That's what you do for others, what you do for yourself. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Michelle. I guess self-compassion has a sense of realism in it. It's also practical, I think. And self-love could be a little egocentric as an element of taking things for granted, while self-compassion involves that kindness, looking at it practically, and still being nice to yourself during tough times. So that was good. But would you like to add personally what it means to you, or how has it benefited you?
Okay, so let me start with the first time that I heard the term self-compassion. And second of all, I think what I also need to clarify is self-compassion is a very Buddhism term, and self-love isn't. So self-compassion is a very Buddhism term that you use also when you're doing mindfulness meditation to have compassion. It's compassion towards yourself while you have compassion towards others. So getting to the second question that you asked me. The first time that I heard the term self-compassion was when I was doing my master's. I was having a very hard time with my internship, I think, at that time. And I was being quite hard on myself because I felt like I wasn't doing a great job of being a therapist. And I went to my supervisor and I was telling her that, I feel like everybody else is so much better than me, and, and I'm not doing very well. And I don't think I'm doing very well. And all of these issues. And I was really kind of like venting and wasn't happy with myself. I remember my professor just looked at me and she said, Michelle, have some self-compassion, right? And that's the first time I ever heard that term. And for some reason, with just her telling me that, it completely hit home for me, if I may say so, right? It was at that moment where I think I really realized what it means to be compassionate, to be okay with finding certain things to be harder than others, to be patient with myself, to accept things that I maybe find a little difficult, but it's okay. The point is that I'm working hard at it. The point is that I'm doing it with good intentions, and I'm trying to put in whatever I'm learning into practice, and to accept those things, to accept the irritations and the struggles and all of that, and still be nice to myself, to be kind to myself, and not call myself names of calling myself stupid or that I'm no good and things like that. So that's where I think for me, that's where this entire self-compassion journey for me started. Since then, it's been quite a bit of work of putting it into practice on a daily basis, be it with work, be it with family, be it with myself, as a therapist, as a lecturer, as a teacher, as a friend, as a daughter, as all of these things, right? It's been quite a bit of a journey. It's been two Vipassana courses of really, really trying to understand and continue to understand self-compassion and practice it to the best ability, to my best ability. Yep, that's my answer.
All right, Michelle, thank you for sharing these few points. Just another question, especially because we're going through this time of lockdown. It is definitely difficult to kind of apply self-compassion. But if you could give our viewers or give us a few tips that would help us practice it and use it effectively, because it's easy to say it and then do it once or twice, but then you tend to forget. Yeah. So how to keep it going? What are the tips?
Yeah. It definitely isn't easy. I think it requires a lot of practice and a constant reminder to yourself to be compassionate. And that then requires to be mindful. During this lockdown, I see a lot of people struggling with different things, right? With just the number of clients that I'm seeing, and I see each individual struggling with something different. Somebody is overworking. Somebody else is extremely bored. Some people are absolutely happy with the isolation. Some people cannot wait and cannot wait for the lockdown to end. So their entire kind of every day is going, checking kind of news and, what's going on and what's happening and when is it going to end and what the numbers are, and constantly kind of checking data and constantly kind of focusing on the uncertainty of the situation and, not knowing how much longer this is going to go on for. So there are a lot of different things that each individual is dealing with, right? In the midst of all of that, I think there's this constant kind of process of questioning and being critical of yourself. Should I be anxious? Should I not be anxious? Can I be angry? Can I not be angry? Can I be upset with whatever the situation, whatever it is? Can I be upset? Can I not be upset? Constantly questioning, am I overworking? Am I not overworking? Should I be working more? Should I be working less? I'm not with my family. Should I be calling them more? It's just so many kind of should I's, can I, would this be okay? Is this okay to feel this way? And that's where I think self-compassion comes in, right? Where it's okay to feel all of these things. It's okay to think all of these things, right? Because we are in a situation that none of us have ever experienced. None of us have ever been prepared for it. So we're all in a unique situation and we don't know what's going to happen. And it's okay that we don't know what's going to happen, right? To be okay with that, to be okay with the uncertainty, to be okay with the anxiety and not to resist it and to judge yourself over it. I think it comes down to working or trying to not judge yourself, trying to not judge what you're feeling, trying to not judge what you're thinking, trying to not be critical of it, of calling it good or bad, or or this is okay, this is wrong, this is right, things like that, and just accepting the fact this is what you're going through and it's okay for you to go through it, right? Let's try and just focus on the fact that just to kind of plan our days, structure our days, so we're doing what we can and trying to kind of have some sort of a routine, and we're doing our best to make the most of the situation and trusting that I think we're all in one way or the other, just trying to make the most of the situation that we're in whichever unique way that might be, right? And just kind of recognizing that. Something that I recently kind of heard, which has been, with me and resonating with me for the last couple of weeks, is how all of us are going through a form of grief, right? That we're all grieving the loss of what was normal and the fact that we're not going to get back to that normal. The normal that we're going to be seeing post this is going to be an absolutely different normal, right? Where, like it or not, I can see myself not being uncomfortable with shaking hands with anybody in the future. I can see myself not being okay with that. I can see myself not really willingly going to public spaces for a long time, right? And recognize that there's grief of losing that normalcy, that normal life that we all, to some extent, to a large extent, maybe took for granted, right? And again, being compassionate with dealing with that grief. That this is what it is, and it's okay, and we'll get through it, no matter what, right? So yeah, that would be my little bit in terms of being compassionate with yourself during this time.
Thank you, Michelle. That was nice. Something I can take something back was to be okay with the whole situation. That's something we don't look at, like to be okay with the situation. Everyone's all tensed with the new cases rising up and Bangalore being hotspotted and different other cities too, and then the cordoning off. And it's just a trying time for all of us. And like you said, it's something we've never faced, at least our generation has never faced. So
Yeah.
Again, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your heart and sharing your life with us. It takes a lot to. And thank you, viewers, for joining in. And remember, Simon says, be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. See ya. And done.